Krisstina Wise, your millionaire mindset coach. I help top performers turn their performance into millions and feel like $1,000,000 at the same time. In other words, mindsets and how-tos for building money wealth and health wealth, because we need both to truly be happy. Today we're going to talk about faith. And faith is the first F word, and it's not the first F word by accident. It's the first F word very deliberately. And I think you'll know why here in a minute. First of all, when we look at the word faith and you look at the root word or the Latin derivative, it means to trust. So to have faith means to have trust or to trust. When taken out of the context of having a faith, meaning a particular religious belief or religious system, and just faith is the word, is the noun, it means to trust in something or sometimes someone other than ourselves. And trust and faith are somewhat of a mystery to me, because you can't really see trust, you can't see faith. It just is something we believe in, and many times it's something we believe in where there's no proof. So that even makes it more mystical or magical. Faith to me is, it's a word with a lot of meaning and deep meaning, and let me share why. Many of you, if not most of you, know by now that in 2013 I had a near-death experience, and I became very physically ill. A lot of it came from being overstressed. I just had too much of a stressful lifestyle and just lived beyond, with no limits and go, go, go all the time. And a lot of it came from not having much faith. I really believed that the world, like my success in life and for me to turn life out, I had to be in total control. In fact, I controlled everything, as much as everything I could around me, everyone around me, my environment, just my life was control. I think it just was so much based on fear because of that lack of faith. So I had a need to control things, prove things, force things, make things happen, use my willpower, stress constantly, and just pushed my body and pushed myself beyond any reasonable limit, and didn't really even understand I had limits till finally, one day my body broke down, and physical illness. But what many of you don't know, because I've not really shared this publicly, is not only did I nearly lose my life because of physical reasons, because of my physical health, but I also had a mental break as well. My mind broke, my psychology broke, and part of disappearing off the map of 2013 was because I was physically too ill to work or to live, basically, but I also was in a state of debilitating anxiety, horrible dark depression. And I reached such a place in my life that not only was I dying physically, but I was dying mentally in the fact that I finally reached a place where I'd lost almost every bit of hope. And I thought that if I'm stuck here for much longer, I don't want to be here anymore. And in fact, I asked my husband, Gary, I had a conversation with him and said, I don't have the courage to do this myself, but I'm going to need you to take me out because I can't live like this anymore. So how did I get there? I think I got there to that place of just being in this dark, horrible place, just fear-based. I mean, I was having panic attacks almost every day. The anxiety comes from fear. It's because I didn't have faith. I just thought that everything was up to me. So for me to turn around and for me to get my life, it was a whole protocol I had to go through to reverse my physical illness, but I also had to work on my mental side as well. And it took a year to fix both. But the first place I had to go to get my mind back, to feel to a place of where I moved far away from depression and got rid of my anxiety, is I had to learn this concept of faith. And so faith to me today, like I said, has so much meaning. And what it means to me, like what faith is, it means just that. It means trust. And it's real trust. I mean, it's trust. It's this process of letting go. And now I have this faith in this universe, and that's just so much bigger than I am, than we are. And it's changed everything, because when I think about it, there's this universe that's this energy, that this is this force of nature that's, that we live inside every single day, she's been around for billions of years of existence, and this intelligence that comes from billions of years of existence. I've just been around for 40-something, so my force, my will, my intelligence, my smarts, my everything pales in comparison to the universal force and the universal intelligence that's a gift that each of us have access to. And so my life change has been putting so much as letting go of control and putting my faith into this universal intelligence and connecting and pulling from this on a daily basis as my true guide, and really connecting to my intuition without this need to use my brain, my logic, my force, my will, my intensity to turn life out. And now it's this place, because of having faith in this thing that's bigger than I am, and just letting go and giving so much of my life over to this, that I'm gifted with connecting with this. I receive the intelligence. As woo-woo and crazy as that sounds, I know that to be true. Because so much of what I'm creating today it comes from me, but it's so much bigger than me, if that makes sense. So a way I've kind of gotten here maybe, and sort of go from a place from not so much faith to having, I think, complete faith and letting go and having very little fear, if any fear in my life now, is I've sort of compared it to, well, the metaphor I use is I use the metaphor water a lot. I talk about cash flow and the flow of money, and compare it to the flow of water, and the minimum energy of flow of water. So to use that same metaphor, to think of this universal energy, this universal force is like this big gushing river, and it's limitless energy and momentum and power and intelligence and current. Just imagine the current. And so much of my life before I got sick and had a total breakdown, what was I doing? I was trying to paddle upstream. Every day I was fighting so hard and paddling against that current force, because I had the will. I felt in control. I needed control. I didn't understand Mother Nature's law, these universal laws, and I just thought I want it my way, and I thought I had the more power, until finally, like I broke. But what happens is that when we breaks are usually tend to be pretty awful. If you've been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think about it like when we fight so hard against the flow. Imagine Niagara Falls right behind us, and we're trying to fight and paddle upstream, but we're never going to win against that force. And so we keep be pulled back, no matter how hard we're rowing, and paddling, until finally, Niagara Falls gets closer and closer, and then we just fall over. So that's kind of my metaphor. So now what I've learned is, now moving to a place of faith versus a need to control, I'm in this universal current. The current is taking me. Now I still have my boat, and I'm navigating and I'm paddling, but I'm paddling in the current, not against it. And it just becomes this effortless effectiveness. Now I'm in the boat and I'm still paddling, but you can see the difference between paddling in the current versus paddling against it, and how much quicker and how much less effort, how effortless it is, or less effort required when you're in that current. So what I really challenge all of us to do today, as we look at our F word, is I want us to look at faith. And there's a few different things that we need, I think, to be in the flow, into the universal flow. And the first thing, the universal flow, so that we can have total faith, like faith and confidence, and be in this momentum. And the first part of faith that we need is to find our purpose. And this can be difficult for many of us. We just don't know what our purpose is. We're working hard, we might be making great money or not, but we just haven't figured out our purpose. And when we don't know our purpose, it's really hard to have faith, because we don't know why we're here. And that's what I had to learn. That's what I had to figure out for myself. The first step was, why am I here? Because when we know our why, we don't have to paddle upstream. We don't have to fight so hard. we're using this universal intelligence, and we're using our own intelligence and our own unique abilities. Every one of you, all of us, are so unique and so gifted and so talented, and we're the perfect person that the universe needs in order to do the universal work. So we have to get connected to that. What is our purpose? Why are we here? And when we know that, then it's easier to have faith because you know where you fit. You know your why. So that's the first step of moving to faith. And I took the full year of 2013 to figure that one out, but I was forced to. It's much easier if you do that on your own versus sort of finding your place where I did in order to sort of force you to find yourself. The second part of faith is understanding universal laws, is that this Mother Nature, the universe, it's a force, it's an energy, and it has laws. And what laws means, laws are truth. So the reason why you can have faith in the universe is because it tells the truth. Its laws are real. Now the problem is that they're not obvious, and they're not intuitive. In fact, they're counterintuitive, and it's not cultural. So the universal laws, that when we're in the current of these and we know what they are, they tend to be out of culture and not in culture, and they're counterintuitive versus what seems logical and most sensical. So the bad news is that they're not obvious, but the good news is once you know these universal laws, you can totally be in the universal current and just flow with it and use this to gain your own momentum and use it to build your own life and create the life that you want. So for example, a universal force or energies, let's say gravity, meaning gravity is, I don't quite understand it, but what I do know about gravity is I'm not going to pretend it doesn't exist just because I can't see it, meaning I'm going to believe it's truth that if I jump off a 30-story building without, and just jump straight off, I'm probably not gonna have a happy ending at the end. There's lots of universal truths, but two universal truths that I like to talk about, and hopefully a big part of why you're here is to learn a couple of these, is actually money. The way I teach money, if you've been following me, you know that I talk about flow. I talk about money as energy. And when you can think of money in terms of energy, again, that same current can work for you, can work with you, can grow your wealth and abundance, versus when you don't accept money's laws, the natural laws of money. Most people, they never learn them. They're counterintuitive. So most people their entire life live paycheck to paycheck and never get ahead and actually reach an age of old age where they don't have enough, and life continues to get worse versus getting better over time. So money has laws. The bad news is that we have to learn the laws. They're not intuitive, and if we don't learn them, we're probably not going to turn our money life out, and we won't build enough wealth that produces that freedom. But the good news is that the laws are laws. They're truths. So once you know those money truths, then money's really easy, and it just grows and builds because you're in the current, right? You're in it. You're in that money boat, that money river, and you're in that boat, and it just continues to grow and grow. But you have to learn the laws. There's also biological laws. Our body has laws. Our bodies, have been around. Humans have been around for tens of thousands of years, and our bodies are designed from the Paleo age. And it's a biological, scientific system that's actually more complex than even the smartest doctors in the world understand yet today. But there are certain truths about health and our body that when we know them, we can turn our health around. We can turn our mental health around. We can turn our physical health around. We can reverse illness like I did. But you have to know the truths. They're not obvious. They're not cultural. But they are pretty simple once you boil them down to a few things that we can change when it comes to our health, because our body it tells the truth. In fact, it talks to us. I talk to my body all the time, as silly as that sounds. But there are laws that when you understand the body as a biological system, as a science, then it's really easy to build health. When you understand money as a law, it's really easy to build financial abundance. So, but you have to learn the laws. The third part of having faith, I'd like to say about that also is that once you know the laws, you can have faith because the laws are truth, and you just follow the money laws and follow the body laws, for example, and then there's just health and wealth. Once you understand it and you put the things into practice, which takes us to the third part of faith, you can have faith that those laws tell the truth, and if you follow them, they're going to work out. The third piece, though, to have faith is you have to put it into practice, and practice is always the hardest thing, right? We may know the laws, how gravity works, and we may understand money laws or even health laws. Most of us don't, but assuming we do, putting it into practice is the hard part. And everything really boils down to the knowledge first and the practice second. So what are our faith practices? Well, I've had to adopt practices for myself, again, not only to reverse the horrific situation I was in, but now to really optimize life and continue building this total place of just happiness and effortless effectiveness and being in the flow and the minimum of life, and just every day is just a great day to see what's in store for this present moment. What's enabled me to go from over here, just this horrible, horrible place, to where I am today, is the practice. And one of my practices is meditation. And I meditate every day. And the reason why that practice is important is for a number of reasons for me. It's a faith practice. When I meditate every morning, it's my connectivity. It's pausing. It's being in the quiet. It's just me and the universe. You know, whatever your definition of that universal power is, it's my connectivity. And sometimes I connect better than others. Sometimes I'm in the practice and I don't connect. But when I do connect, it's so awesome. And it's just that reminder that I can let so much of this anxiety go. I can just let so much of this need to control, like, the destiny's there. I just have to be a participant. I need to paddle and, navigate and do my part of this and put my unique talents in the world to make the world a better place, but not fight against nature, to be in that universal flow. And the way I connect to that is through my meditation practice. So that's the first thing, is to connect through the practice. The other part of the practice, for me, even in meditation, is just to learn to be in the present moment. To me, faith, we have to let go of the past to really be in this total place of faith. And we can't bank on everything in the future. Like when our whole life is about the future and this worrying about the future turning out, that's a place of anxiety. That's not a place of faith. So you have faith when the future is already going to turn out. You know the laws, you're in the practices, you know the systems, you're in the practices. I can have faith, so all I just need to do is show up and do my part today. And so that's about being in the present moment, right here, right now, you and me. And that's what meditation reminds me to do, because we all are in our planning in our heads and where to go and what to do and who to see. And that's just kind of the way we work. So the meditation as a practice, my faith practice, pulls me down back to the present moment, which is where faith is right now, right? Believing in right now in the moment, because the future is already going to work out. So that's the third part. That's the third thing to do in order to get to a place of faith, total faith. The fourth is the act of letting go. Letting go is hard, meaning we use our unique talents, we show up to work, we're in our life's purpose, we're doing our life's work every day. We participate, we have our paddles, we're navigating our boats, not against the current, but using the current. And then we do as much as we can do with the knowledge that we have on any given day. And then you get to the point where, okay, I've done everything I can do using everything I know. Now it's time to let go and let the universe take over. So the real release, the real place of faith is in this place of letting go. It doesn't mean you don't participate. It doesn't mean that life's just going to work out. But it's the act of letting go and believing and having faith in this magical thing that we can't see, and just knowing that I've done everything I can do. I have faith. I'm letting go. And then the final part of faith is really listening to your intuition. Many of us, especially as top performers, what are we? We're left brain. We're type A's. We're doers. We get shit done. We're fast paced, right? And so we logic everything. Everything is using our head. And that was a big part of my breakdown again in 2013, is I was always trapped in my head. Number one, I was never in the present. I was always in the future. But I was so trapped in my head. Now I go to my head occasionally to pull out like what, things from my brain when I need to use what's in that storage device. But otherwise, I really work to travel or to move from a place of my gut. Remember, like the saying, follow your gut? It means to follow your gut. Our gut is follow our intuition. So that's what we want to do. We want to get to a place where we rely less on our logic and our brain and trust more in our gut and our intuition, which is why a lot of the practice is important. So we have the pause, the quiet to even sort of feel our gut, to feel our intuition. And that's part of faith, is going with the intuition, sometimes even when it defies logic. Sometimes like giving up letting go of the paycheck because our dream is to do our own business or whatever that may be. It defies all logic, but your intuition just is telling you that that's what you need to do or what you're supposed to do. Then there's also the intuition of listening to your body for health. Our bodies are so intelligent. Why? Because they come from the universe. Our bodies are very intelligent systems. Our bodies know far more than we know that through our heads. It's this beautiful, magical system that's so perfectly balanced as long as we keep it healthy and in balance. But our bodies tell us when we're unhealthy. If I were listening, for example, to my intuition, to my body, I had all these red flags that I was just right on the brink of disaster, that my body was going to collapse. But I ignored it. What I do, like 2 days before my body finally broke down, I ran a half marathon. I hadn't even trained for it. I mean, how stupid is that? Like, really? I just hadn't even run more than a few miles in probably a year, and I go out and do a half marathon in a 2-hour pace. And it's just like, that was the silly things. And my body, all these red flags were going off before that. We're like, rejuvenate, slow down, we're breaking down. But I wasn't listening. I couldn't listen. So that's all part of intuition. So, what to do? Those are really the 5 parts of faith. So, think of this tonight, or whenever you set your goals for faith, is your action is to think of, how am I doing on faith? Remember I said yesterday that we're going to score ourselves? When I talk about those 5 parts of faith, how would you score yourself? How are you at letting go? How are you in the practice? How are you at feeling as though you're in the flow, in this current, versus sort of working against it? How are you, meaning you sort of feel in control and in this flow of this universal energy? Or do you feel like the world's on your shoulders and you just have to fight so hard for everything? So much of that comes from faith, in the faith. So grade yourself. How are you doing in this faith category? It's number 1 for a reason. It's number 1 because everything starts with faith. Everything starts with this connectivity that we have, because as one human being alone, we can't do everything. We have to have faith in other people, and we have to have faith in a universe or energy bigger than we are. So grade yourself, and then think about, if I had more faith, how would I feel? What does faith look like to me? What would be my practice of faith? What can I do differently to have more faith in my life? And then finally, I think about moving from how to even measure it, is that when we don't have maybe enough faith, meaning we're still trying to control too much, usually many times we feel a certain way. We feel a little bit out of control, even though we try to be in control. We feel sort of disconnected versus connected. We feel a separateness versus a sense of belonging. We feel maybe some anxiety or pressure, or we're not sleeping, just worry. Those sensations come usually from this lack of faith that we're talking about. But moving to the other side, the more faith we have, the more sense of belonging we have, the more sense of purpose we have, the more sense of connectivity we have, the more sense of freedom and true bliss, I believe, comes from true faith. And we each have our parts, our small parts in this universal intelligence, but our parts are really important, so not to minimize those either. So that's faith. It's big. I shared a lot. I can't wait to hear your stories. Please continue to share. I've read every single one of your emails so far. all your comments, they touch my heart. I really have faith in you. I appreciate you having faith in me. And let's be on this journey together. And I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. See you later.